Hello and welcome to Fast and Factual on Firstpost, where we get you the top 50 stories from around the world. I'm Alison Lagrange, coming to you live from Durban, South Africa. Let's begin. In our top stories, Russia and Ukraine swapped at least 300 prisoners of war yesterday in an exchange brokered by the United Arab Emirates ahead of New Year's Eve. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky shared the news, saying Kiev had received 189 prisoners, while the Russian Defense Ministry earlier reported that each side had freed 150 prisoners of war. However, there has been no explanation over the discrepancy in the numbers reported by both sides. North Korean leader Kim Jong-un hailed Russian President Vladimir Putin as his dearest friend. He wrote a New Year's letter to Putin praising the close bilateral ties between North Korea and Russia. Kim described Putin as his dearest friend and comrade. In the letter, he also expressed willingness to work on more joint projects. The United States has announced almost $6 billion in military and budget aid for Ukraine. U.S. President Joe Biden announced $2.5 billion in security assistance for Ukraine, and another $3.4 billion has been provided as additional budget aid to Ukraine. A federal appeals court has upheld a verdict against U.S. President-elect Donald Trump. He has been asked to pay $5 million after he was found guilty for sexually abusing and defaming writer Carroll. The three-judge panel rejected Trump's arguments for a new trial. In 2023, Trump was found liable for sexually assaulting Carroll in around 1996. A Chinese state-sponsored hacker broke into the U.S. Treasury Department systems. According to U.S. officials, the hacker accessed employee workstations and some unclassified documents. The breach occurred in early December. The Treasury Department characterized the breach as a major incident. It added that it had been working with the FBI and other agencies to investigate further. Germany has accused entrepreneur Elon Musk of election interference. This comes following his op-ed favoring far-right Alternative for Germany party. Now, the German government said that Musk recommended voting for a party under suspicion of right-wing extremism. The remarks followed Musk's December 28th op-ed, in which he endorsed the AfD party as Germany's last hope. El Salvador's Navy seized over 1.5 tons of cocaine worth $37.5 million in a maritime operation. Two men aboard an Ecuadorian speedboat were arrested, and they will be facing legal proceedings. In 2024, El Salvador has so far intercepted 18.4 tons of cocaine in high-sea operations, with an estimated value of over $417 million. A court in Seoul issued an arrest warrant for South Korea's impeached President Yoon Suk-yeol. Yoon is facing charges of insurrection and abuse of power for briefly declaring martial law. He had earlier ignored 3 summonses for questioning. The Israeli military said yesterday it intercepted a missile launched from Yemen. However, the missile could not cross the Israeli territory. The missile also set off air raid sirens in Tel Aviv. The Israeli forces also claimed to destroy 2 projectiles fired from northern Gaza on the same day. Israel's ambassador to the United Nations, Danny Danon, issued what he described as a final warning to the Yemen-based Houthis. He condemned the missile attacks launched against Israel by the Iran-backed proxies. He warned that they would face the same miserable fate as Hamas, Hezbollah, and the ousted Syrian President Bashar al-Assad. India has successfully launched its first space docking mission. It is a big step toward its dream of setting up a space station by 2035. The mission by the Indian Space Research Organization will make India the 4th country after the US, Russia, and China to have such technology, if all the tests are successful. Now, the mission involves the deployment of 2 small satellites into orbit. ISRO aims to develop the technology needed for 2 spacecraft to connect or dock while in orbit. Ahead of New Year's celebrations in India, authorities have stepped up security to maintain law and order. The Delhi police have deployed 16 quick reaction teams and formed 27 traffic checkpoints to monitor road safety. In Mumbai city, over 15,000 patrol personnel have been deployed, and in the southern state of Karnataka, a strict curfew of 1 a.m. has been issued to ensure public order. And a report claims that politicians from the Maldivian Democratic Party asked India for $6 million earlier this year. The Maldivian opposition leaders aim to fund a plot to impeach President Mohamed Muizzu. However, the plan did not go through. Now, the report detailed a plot to bribe 40 members of parliament, including some from Muizzu's party. The $6 million was reportedly intended to cover these payments. And police in Kenya's capital, Nairobi, used tear gas to disperse demonstrators protesting against a series of unexplained abductions of government critics. Human rights groups allege Kenya's police and intelligence services are behind the arrest. Protesters marched and staged sit-in protests, chanting slogans condemning the illegal detentions. And in climate news, in a significant conservation move, the Biden administration approved measures to protect the Ruby Mountains in northeast Nevada from energy projects. The U.S. Forest Service's application was greenlit by the Interior Department, withdrawing over 264,000 acres of federal land from oil, gas, and geothermal leasing for 20 years. In Deir al-Balah in Gaza, heavy rain and winds destroyed dozens of tents sheltering displaced residents. The residents described waking up in the middle of the night to repair tents overwhelmed by water. Water was collected on the worn-out fabric, breaking wooden supports and soaking those sleeping inside. This marks the second winter of war in Gaza, with weather conditions adding a new layer of suffering to hundreds of thousands of displaced Palestinians. A fierce hailstorm in Beireri, a city in Sao Paulo, Brazil, caused substantial damage. The storm coated streets with ice and led to the collapse of a supermarket roof. This left 4 people with minor injuries. Weather experts have urged residents and businesses to prepare for similar occurrences, as forecasts suggest continued adverse weather in the coming days. And authorities in Chile have issued an alert warning of abnormal sea swells threatening coastal areas. Residents in towns such as Vina del Mar were advised to avoid beaches and coastal roads. The situation is expected to worsen, with the swells likely intensifying until the 31st of December. Unprecedented high waves are wreaking havoc along Peru's northern coast. The situation is expected to worsen until the 4th of January. The Peruvian Navy reported extensive damage, prompting the closure of 121 beaches and 58 ports. Fishing activities and coastal infrastructure are also facing disruptions. Authorities predict the waves will peak on the 2nd of January, further complicating recovery efforts. And dry weather in the Ivory Coast, the world's largest cocoa producer, is causing alarm among farmers as it threatens bean quality and supply. Over the past week, no rainfall was recorded in key cocoa growing regions. While there are sufficient pods to sustain the January harvest, farmers are closely monitoring weather patterns, hoping for improved conditions to avoid further strain on supply chains. And oil prices are likely to end lower for a second consecutive year. Now, this in business news is due to concerns over demand in the top oil-consuming countries. However, the prices rose today owing to China's manufacturing activity expansion this month. And cocoa and coffee are set to close at 2024 as the biggest gaining commodities amid a global supply deficit. Cocoa nearly tripled its price in 2024. The prices hit a record high of $12,931 a metric ton earlier this month in New York, while coal closes as the worst performer owing to slow growth in China. After Jeju Air, Boeing stocks fell by 6% yesterday. This after a Boeing 737 airliner crashed in South Korea, killing 179 out of the 181 on board. The country's transport ministry has announced plans to inspect all aircraft of that model being used in South Korea. The U.S. Justice Department has filed a complaint against financial technology company Dave Inc. Now, the complaint also involves company CEO Jason Wilk. The action pertains to Dave Inc.'s alleged violations of federal law. Now, the company allegedly lured users to its finance app. It used advertisements of cash advances that may never be received. And in agribusiness, Archer Daniels Midland, or the ADM shareholder CEO Juan Luciano, faces a call for resignation. A company's shareholders sought his resignation for failing to tell investors about internal accounting practices issues. These problems led to a criminal investigation against the company. This as ADM failed to record sales between its nutrition business and other core units properly. And the sales of previously owned homes in New York rose more than expected in the last month of November. Now, the rise marked the fourth straight month of gains. This as American buyers focused on taking advantage of improved inventory, even as mortgage rates run high. The National Association of Realtors said its pending home sales index hit the highest last month at 79% since February 2023. And Warner Brothers Discovery board member Lee Hassler-Chen is set to resign next month. Her resignation will be effective from the 31st of January 2025. She is also the company's nominating and corporate governance committee member. Lee Hassler-Chen said that she needed to spend more time with her own company, Howl. And German air taxi startup Volocopter GmbH has filed for insolvency proceedings. The company cited its inability to raise new funds to be able to maintain operations as the reason. The company, backed by Mercedes and Honeywell, plans to continue operations until insolvency proceedings are completed. And Brazilian miner Vale reached a railway concessions agreement with the local authorities. Vale agreed to pay up to around $1.78 billion to the authorities to be able to renegotiate 2 railway concession contracts. This as Brazil's incumbent government has been trying to get rid of discounts previously granted to rail companies. And US chipmaker Nvidia has completed acquisition deal with Israeli AI firm Run AI. The deal's closure followed the European Commission's unconditional approval for Nvidia's $700 million bid. Earlier, the EU antitrust watchdog had warned that the deal could threaten competition in the markets. And moving on to sports news, and we start with cricket. South Africa become the first team to qualify for the World Test Championship final next year. The Proteas secured their spot after beating Pakistan by 2 wickets in the first of the 2-match Test series. Aiden Markram was the player of the match, but the partnership between Kagiso Rabada and Marco Jansen took the Proteas across the line in what was a nail-biting finish. England's Joe Root and Harry Brook have been shortlisted for the ICC Men's Cricketer of the Year award. Other nominees include Australia's Travis Head and India's Jasprit Bumrah. The 34-year-old Root is the top-ranked Test batter of 2024. He has scored 1,556 runs in 17 tests with an average of 55.57. In football news, Manchester United succumbed to a 2-0 loss to Newcastle in the Premier League. Alexander Isak and Jolenta scored early goals, leaving United in total state of confusion. Newcastle moved up to 5th place in the leaderboard with the victory. United, meanwhile, is floundering at the 14th spot, 7 points above relegation zone. And former England manager Gareth Southgate has received a knighthood in the UK's New Year honours. He led England to 2 European Championship finals. Southgate also took England to the 2018 World Cup semi-finals. He is the most successful England manager since Alf Ramsey. And Mohamed Salah says that he's far away from renewing his Liverpool contract. His current deal ends this season, allowing free transfer talks from January. 32-year-old Salah scored his 20th goal in Liverpool's 5-0 win over West Ham. Liverpool now leads the Premier League by 8 points. And in tennis news, Emma Raducanu will be skipping the Auckland Open due to a back niggle. She was due to play the American Robin Montgomery in the first match, but the former US Open champion said she's not ready. Raducanu has spent a considerable amount of time last season recovering from injuries. And Naomi Osaka of Japan has won her first match of the new season. She defeated qualifier Lena Glashko 6-4, 6-4 in an intense fight at the ADB Tennis Classic in Auckland. This is Osaka's first match after an almost 3-month injury break. She will next face Austrian tennis player Julia Garber in the next round. And Novak Djokovic and Nick Kyrgios joined forces for the first time and debuted at the Brisbane International. The pair defeated Austria's Alexander Erler and Germany's Andreas Mies 6-4, 6-7, 10-8. An iconic chest bump after the victory unfolded a newfound romance between the two, who otherwise have had differences in the past. Djokovic and Kyrgios will next face the top seeds Nikola Metic and Michael Venus. And in boxing news, Conor McGregor has reportedly confirmed his $250 million mega fight with social media sensation turned boxer Logan Paul in India's Wankhede Stadium. McGregor hasn't competed since 2021. He suffered a leg injury during his loss to Dustin Poirier that year. And in basketball, the NBA legend LeBron James plans to retire with the Los Angeles Lakers and not with any other team. He confirmed this on his 40th birthday, which was on the 30th of December. James is currently in his 22nd NBA season and has already won 4 NBA championships. He also added that he won't be returning to the game after announcing retirement, unlike Michael Jordan. And in entertainment news, Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie have finalized their divorce settlement after 8 years. Jolie's lawyer stated that her client is now exhausted. He said, and I quote, "More than 8 years ago, Angelina filed for divorce, and since then she has focused on finding peace and healing for their family." However, the former couple still has to settle the dispute over their vineyard in France. And 5 individuals have been indicted by Argentinian authorities in connection with the death of singer Liam Payne. 3 suspects face manslaughter charges, while 2 others are accused of supplying drugs to the singer. Payne tragically fell from a hotel balcony in Buenos Aires on the 16th of October and died. And rumors are swirling that Rihanna is lobbying to ban the Kardashian-Jenner family from attending the 2025 Met Gala. Reports claim the pop icon is leveraging her partner, A$AP Rocky's position in the gala's planning committee. Rihanna is reportedly opposing the family due to their ties with the controversial figures like Kanye West and Chris Brown. And Sa has announced updates to her recently released SOS Deluxe Lana album. This includes revised mixes and additional tracks. They are all set to drop on the 6th of January. Despite the album's overwhelming success, topping the Billboard 200, the artist aims to perfect her project. And pop star Sabrina Carpenter has collaborated with a popular coffee chain to release her signature drink. It's called Sabrina's Brown Sugar Shaken Espresso, launching on New Year's Eve. The drink features espresso, oat milk, and brown sugar. A quirky ad campaign highlights the singer's involvement, blending her music persona with her love for coffee. In a heartfelt social media post, Abigail Breslin detailed her struggles with toxic masculinity in Hollywood. The Little Miss Sunshine star shared her experience of being called hysterical after filing a complaint against a co-star's unprofessional behavior, which was followed by a retaliatory lawsuit. And Jason Momoa has traded his Aquaman Trident's role for the role of Lobo, the intergalactic anti-hero in DC's upcoming Supergirl Women of Tomorrow. The movie stars Millie Alcock as Supergirl, with Matea Schoenaerts and Eve Ridley playing key roles. And Josh Duhamel, Dylan Spurs, and Til Schweiger are all set to headline The Neglected film. It's an intense thriller about a retiring detective racing to save his son from a serial killer. Directed by Dave Lipper, the film boasts a gripping plot and a talented ensemble cast. Shot in Mississippi, the film promises edge-of-your-seat action for fans of the genre. Bling Empire New York star Lin Ban has survived a life-threatening ski accident in Aspen. It required her to get emergency craniotomy. Despite wearing a helmet, Ban suffered a brain bleed and was airlifted to a trauma center. The jewelry designer credited swift medical intervention with saving her life and shared her gratitude on social media, reflecting on her harrowing ordeal. Actor Linda Lavin has passed away at the age of 87. According to her publicist, she died of lung cancer. Lavin is known for her roles in projects like Alice and Broadway Bound. She is survived by her husband, Steve Bakunis. And with that, it's a wrap on this edition of Fast and Factual. Thank you for watching. Stay tuned to Firstpost.